Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. Today's video was highly requested, and I also want to say that I know I'm going to get this video up late because I'm filming it late, but my power actually went out and was out for like a few hours, so I wasn't able to, well, I'm filming, but I'm filming on my computer, which has just a certain amount of juice. It's not plugged in. I don't know how long, like if it's going to die in the middle or when the power's going to come back on for me to be able to upload. So I'm sure that by the time you guys see this video, it will be late. So I'm so sorry. I made it, 26 days straight, and if this one goes up a little late, please forgive me. Today's video is going to be about Jackie Ormes, who was requested, and Jackie Ormes is known as the first African-American woman cartoonist who created the Torchy Brown comic strip and the Patty, Joe, and Ginger panel. She was born She was born Zelda Maven Jackson on August 1st, 1911 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where my grandfather's from. I used to spend summers there in Pittsburgh. Her father, William, was the owner of a printing company as well as a movie theater proprietor, and he was killed in an automobile accident in 1917. This resulted in the then 6-year-old Jackie and her younger sister, Delores, being placed in the care of their aunt and uncle for a brief period of time. Eventually, Jackie's mother remarried and her family relocated to a nearby suburb of Pittsburgh. Ormes described the suburb in a 1985 interview as spread out and simple, nothing momentous ever happens here. It would be in the suburb that she would attend high school until graduating in 1930. Ormes drew and wrote throughout high school, and it was during this period that she wrote a letter to the editor of the Pittsburgh Courier, a weekly African-American newspaper that was published on Saturdays. The then editor, Robert Van, wrote back, and this correspondence led to her first writing assignment covering a boxing match. Her coverage of future matches led to her becoming an avid fan of the sport. Ormes started in journalism as a proofreader for the Pittsburgh Courier, and she also worked as an editor and a freelance writer. While she enjoyed a great career running around town, looking into everything the law would allow and writing about it, which is a quote, what she really wanted to do was draw. That's a quote from her autobiography, which of course there will be links to in the description box. Ormes' first comic strip, Torchy Brown, in Dixie to Harlem, first appeared in the Pittsburgh Courier in 1937. In addition to the Courier, Torchy Brown was syndicated to 14 other black newspapers. The strip, starring Torchy Brown, was a humorous depiction of a Mississippi teen who found fame and fortune singing and dancing in the Cotton Club. Torchy's journey from Mississippi to New York City mirrored the journey of many African Americans who ventured northward during the Great Migration. It was through Torchy Brown that Ormes became the first African American woman to produce a syndicated comic strip, which is incredible, right? And this was in the 1930s, 1937, right? And we're still underrepresented in comics, in art, but it is so funny to hear people say, like, black girls don't read comics, and black girls don't draw, and black girls aren't into cartoons. Like, no, you're wrong. That's bullshit. You just haven't heard about us. You haven't read about us. Ormes moved to Chicago in 1942 and soon began writing occasional articles and briefly a social column for the Chicago Defender, one of the nation's leading black newspapers, a weekly at the time. For a few months at the end of the war, her single-panel cartoon, Candy, about an attractive and wisecracking housemaid, appeared in the Defender. By August 1945, Ormes' work was back in the Courier with the advent of Patty, Joe, and Ginger, a single-panel cartoon which ran for 11 years. It featured a big sister, little sister setup with the precocious, insightful, and socially politically aware child as the only speaker and the beautiful adult woman as a sometime pit-up figure and fashion mannequin. And a lot of people have made the connection between Patty, Joe, and Ginger and the Boondocks. And a lot of people consider Patty, Joe, and Ginger to kind of be a predecessor to the Boondocks in the fact that the main character was this really precocious and politically aware and active child that was kind of narrating what was going on around her, which we all know is very similar to the setup and the premise of the Boondocks, which is also made by a black cartoonist named Mcgruder. Who's a man, because Aaron could be a girl's name too, just for anyone that doesn't know. In 1950, the Courier began an 8-page color comics insert where Ormes reinvented her Torchy character in a new comic strip, Torchy and Heartbeats. This Torchy was a beautiful, independent woman who finds adventure while seeking true love. Ormes expressed her talent for fashion design as well as her vision of a beautiful black female body in the accompanying Torchy Togs paper doll cutouts. And this also kind of served as, a lot of people felt like Jackie Ormes was like a quietly political figure because she talked a lot about politics and feminism and womanism, things that we would nowadays call feminism and womanism, and ideas about the black woman's body and about, our place in society. And she talked about all this stuff in this really humorous way through these comic strips, right? Which is also kind of what we talk about when we talk about narratives, and why narratives are important and storytelling is important, and why all that stuff is also, a kind of revolution. Revolution doesn't necessarily have to be protesting or putting your body on the front lines or making phone calls or, things we talk about on this channel in terms of like homeschooling and educating yourself and urban agriculture and all these things. There's all these different facets that can go into revolution, including creative narratives and using that as a means of protest and as a way to kind of get this alternative voice out into the world. The strip is probably best known for its last episode in 1954, when Torchy and her doctor boyfriend confront racism and environmental pollution. Ormes used Torchy and Heartbeats as a sounding board for several big issues of the time. In a 1985 interview for Chicago Reader, she claimed she was anti-war. She claimed she was anti-war, anti-racism, anti-sexism. She said, "I was anti-anything that's smelly." Torchy presented an image of a black woman who, in contrast to the contemporary stereotypical media portrayals of black women, was confident, intelligent, and brave. Ormes contracted with the Terry Lee Doll Company in 1947 to produce a play doll based on her little girl cartoon character. The Patty Jo doll was on the shelves in time for Christmas and was the first American black doll to have an extensive upscale wardrobe. As in the cartoon, the doll represented a real child, in contrast to the majority of dolls that were Mammy and Topsy type dolls, and the dolls were popular with both black and white children. In December 1949, Ormes' contract with the Terry Lee Company was not renewed and production ended. Patty Jo dolls are now highly sought after collector's items. She retired from cartooning in 1956, although she continued to create art, including murals, still lifes, and portraits, until rheumatoid arthritis made this impossible. Oh, that's sad. She contributed to her Southside Chicago community by volunteering to produce fundraiser fashion shows and entertainments, and she was also on the founding board of directors for the DuSable Museum of African American History. Ormes was a passionate doll collector with 150 antique and modern dolls in her collection, and she was active in Guys and Gals Funtastic Doll Club, a united federation of doll clubs chapter in Chicago. She died of a cerebral hemorrhage in Chicago on December 26, 1985, and was posthumously inducted into the National Association of Black Journalists Hall of Fame. Wow. Jackie Ormes, first African-American cartoonist, right? So I included a couple of quotes in here. Ormes, who died in 1985, was the first black woman to have a career as a cartoonist. She produced comic strips for the Courier from the 1930s to the 1950s, tackling subjects such as politics, foreign policy, racism, and even environmental justice. Torchy Brown was one of Ormes' most beloved characters. She was smart, she was classy, and she frequently rebelled against the prescribed social order. Torchy also differed greatly from the usual depictions of blacks prior to the civil rights movement. She was always stylish and increasingly independent and assertive over time. Her characters and stories were real at a time when blacks were typically portrayed in a derogatory fashion. Black women were always fat, had bandanas on their heads, had large lips, were porters, were servants, and didn't speak clear English. Torchy and the characters of Patty Jo and Ginger, another Ormes comic, ran counter to that stereotype. Ginger was an attractive, college-educated woman drawn in a pinup girl style, and her younger sister, Patty Jo, was sharp and opinionated. Nancy Goldstein, author of the new book, Jackie Ormes, the first African-American woman cartoonist, of course there will be a link in the description box, emphasizes that Ormes did a service to the Black community by creating role models with her characters. Nice. Awesome. So I had heard of Jackie Ormes, but briefly, not really in any great detail. So thank you so much for suggesting her, those of you that suggested her, because quite a few of you did suggest her. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry yet again that it went up a bit late, but my power went out. So we're almost at the end. I know I keep saying that, but we really are almost at the end. There's only 2 days left of Hidden Figures. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Food for thought as always. See you tomorrow. Peace.